Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. This is episode 94, and obviously, I am Mark. Well, I've got quite a bit.
Where were you going with that?
I went to say, of course, but it's like, why is it of course? Like, why is it of course? Somebody may never have listened to this episode before,
Well, yeah,
or our
yeah.
show before our show. So it's not
Yeah.
of course.
So, of course, welcome back.
Yeah,
Just throw it in there. So he's Mark. No, he's Mark. There we go. That way.
yeah.
And I'm
Mark.
Jasmin.
Like,
Of course.
of course, you're Jasmine. I suppose actually in our intro it does say our names, like, it's a man and a woman.
Yeah.
Anyway, new episodes every Wednesday.
Yeah. We're fancy.
Like,
Midweek episodes now.
Yeah. We record earlier. We drop this week. We don't record that much earlier. We've shifted when we record.
Yeah. Actually, I like this timing better for me, honestly.
What, the Sunday?
Yeah.
And also this one's a bit of a pre-record, but
yeah, it's all right.
Anyway,
it's all good.
Go on.
Right. So before we get started, if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. And we would really appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to our channel. If you are just listening on your favorite podcast platform, that is all right as well. We would also appreciate it if you would leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Podchaser.
And for this week's episode, we are carrying on with our theme, and we're going to be reviewing the third Harry Potter movie, and we're working our way through everything Harry Potter related on the way to our grandstand 100th episode.
Yes. Wow. 100. Man.
100.
Fun fact, though, by the time we get to our 100th episode, I will have lost 100 pounds.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm hoping, I really need to crack on. I've kind of hit a bit of a sort of I've stagnated.
Come on, man. We're supposed to be doing like Geeks Unleashed fitness stuff.
No. Since October, I've lost like 3 stone, and now I've like plateaued. Like, I just seem to be staying still. I've gone from 17 stone to 14 stone.
That's impressive, though. Don't discount it.
I don't know what stone is in pounds.
I think it's 14 pounds.
14 pounds per stone. Okay, yeah. Right. So, but what I would like to do is there's another 40. Well, actually, I'd like to lose another 24 pounds, to be honest. So I'd like to go down to 12 stone. I don't know if that's realistic, but I would at least like to lose a stone, another stone. I would like to get down to 13. I'd like to tone up a bit. It's still a bit flabby, but like I can see I've lost weight, like in photos and stuff. But
yeah, you know what? I was actually going back and looking at some of the first videos that we uploaded, and I can usually it's hard for you as your individual self to see like when you have lost weight because you see yourself every day. Yeah. So I was going back and looking at those first videos that we posted, and I can definitely see the difference now for both of us.
Okay. I haven't actually looked at the older ones.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I can see it with you as well. Like, I can see you've done your hair too differently.
Well, yes, because today is a work day, so I have to actually pretend to be presentable when I go to work sometimes.
Okay, shirt and tie and all that. Anyway, let's jump into our news. So we're going to do one piece of news, 2 trailers, and because this is a slight pre-record, just a little caveat.
We might be a little behind on the news by the time this drops, but
hold on a second. So this episode will drop on the 15th of June. So if anything changes, we apologize. Yeah. Anyway, so as it stands, Neve Campbell will not be returning for Scream 6. Apparently, she doesn't feel that the salary that's offered to her kind of is right considering what she's brought to the franchise. Like, so
I
her name
agree.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, she is the big name attached to Scream.
She is the face of the franchise. Yeah. Pay her what she wants. Like, yeah. Why is this even a question?
I know. It's like, look, I want X. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We'll pay you what you want, and then we'll figure out how much budget we have left and who else we can cast with that budget. Yeah. That's how you do that.
I mean, let's be honest, they're fairly cheap movies to make, and they're normally made within about 2 or 3 weeks. They're not CGI heavy. They're not really
Plus,
massive.
You killed off David Arquette, so that's one less name that you got to worry about.
Yeah, and the rest of the cast, other than Courtney, is not exactly massive. Yeah. I know they're going to bring
Hayden back, Hayden Panettiere. Yeah.
I still can't imagine she pulls in the same level of salary as Neve and Courtney. Like,
I just think that's like silly. This franchise has been going on for what, like 20 years at this point. Like, why would you do that? That's like saying like, oh, we're gonna make a Terminator and we're only gonna offer Arnold this much. And like, come on, he is the franchise. You can't not give him whatever he's asking for.
There is one film that didn't have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. I think it was the fourth Terminator. But I think they had him as a tiny CGI role or something like that.
No, he's
no, because he was the
governor. All of them.
No, there was one. I think it was the one with.
Christian he wasn't Bale. In Salvation.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
No, he was. It was a tiny his character part. Was, but it was all CGI. But
yeah, it wasn't actually him. I think because he was the governor, I think he couldn't really act, so I think he gave like a license to use his appearance or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, maybe it wouldn't look too good for the the governor of Los Angeles. Is it Los Angeles?
No, of California.
California. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not as
well because he came back for the one with Emma. No, not Emma. Emilia Clarke. I can't remember the name of that one. And then he was also in the last one with when actual Sarah Connor came back.
I know we've deviated here, but they just shouldn't have made any more beyond 2. Like, so,
well, yes.
Anyway, basically, long story short, let's be honest.
Pay Neve Campbell what she wants. She is the face of the franchise. How do you have Scream at this point without Sidney Prescott? Honestly,
do you know what? I'm even happy if they make another Scream and Neve is still like because she was in the last Scream, she had a reduced role. I'd be happy if it was still reduced. I'm happy with it reduced.
Yeah.
Like like a bit like Star Wars, where the original cast kind of took a back seat, but she still needs to be in it. Like I loved the last Scream when she came back with Courtney and because you can't have that whole welcome
right because she came back as like this seasoned badass and she was like, no, look, new girl, I got this. Okay.
I loved all of that. And I love the fact there was like 2 bad guys and her and Courtney took down one and the new girl took down the other. And that's how I thought it was going to go down anyway. But yeah, it's great. So anyway, let's do some trailer reactions.
All right, so this is the Netflix Resident Evil trailer, which I have not seen.
No, we've not. Neither. I've not seen that. Sort of tiny little bit, but that was it.
So we're gonna. All right, sharing the sound. We're gonna take a look at this and see how it goes.
They said the world would end in 2036, but they were wrong. The world ended a long time ago.
Oh, trailer, dramatic voiceover.
Umbrella.
Oh yeah.
A company besieged by scandal is now trying to reinvent itself.
It's looking a lot less stupid than the originals.
Wow.
The old Umbrella made mistakes. The things we're working on today, they're gonna change the world.
Is that a giant caterpillar?
Problem.
Yeah, something.
The drug contains the T virus. The T virus can make monsters.
Billions will die. Everyone keep your mouth shut.
Oh, gross. Gross. Spiders.
This makes me feel uncomfortable.
Okay, chainsaw. I can get behind the chainsaw.
Do not resist.
Marriage is complicated.
I am not a fan of zombie animals. Yeah, that's a no from me. That's a I'm gonna sit that one out. I do love Lance Reddick, but no, that's a hell no. I'm not watching that. I'm telling you now.
That looks absolutely like I don't know. Is it? Oh, it's a TV series, by the way. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say just before. Let's check the match. See. So yeah, it's definitely an 18. It's not going to be for children.
No. I don't
It's
know
eight-
why though.
okay.
Like the zombie animals to me are so much more creepy than actual people zombies.
It's 8 episodes, by the way.
I mean, that seems like a
So-
good number for something so horror-tastic.
Yeah, I'm not. It's going to be something I'd have to watch in the day.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So you got plenty of daylight behind you when you watch it, for sure. Because otherwise, you
Yeah.
watch it at night and you hear a sound, you're like, "What was that?"
I am not keen on. I don't know. So I think the original Resident Evil films, like whilst there's jump moments, I got through all of them fine. They were more humorous type.
I think
Crap.
the first film
The first one was
was the
good.
scariest. The
The first
rest
one was
of
good.
them are just kind of like, okay, you're just doing this for the jump scares at this point.
It was like how much
But the
shit could they pile in?
dogs, I think that was the third one. The dogs are really creepy in that one, I think.
I don't even really remember the films now, but I do remember the first film being very on par with the first game.
I never
And
played the
then
games.
I played number 2. Like I literally super completed number 2 because you could play it as Leon or Claire, and then if you complete it as both, and then you get there's an option of a third character that has not the whole game, but sort of a separate part of the game.
Mhm.
And I played that, and then I'll be honest, I played bits of the others. I played bits of the first one.
Yeah.
I couldn't really get around the idea of going around the mansion. That just seemed way too scary. And also because it was older, all the loading scenes of the creepy doors opening, and you just didn't you had to wait for the door to open and load.
No.
And then you just didn't know from the other side what the hell was going to get you.
Yeah. I can't play because I tried to play Dead Space because Dead Space is a lot like that, and I just cannot play those games. Like, nah, I'm good.
Right, and
good.
I think I played a bit of Resident Evil 3, which is very similar to 2. And I played a bit of Code Veronica as well. Code Veronica was quite cool, actually. Like, I liked Code Veronica, but I think it was as I was getting a bit older and I started to lose interest in gaming and started going out. I think I was like over 18. It was like, yes, I can drink now. And just for anyone listening, in America, you guys get to drink at 21. We get to drink at 18.
We get to, yes.
Yeah. Legally get to.
Legally.
Yeah, I legally got to drink at 18.
Must be nice. Must be nice.
Well, you guys can drive before us, so
Oh,
you
really?
can. You can drive at 16, can't you?
Yeah. Well, I think so. It's been so long since I got my license.
Yeah, 17 over 17 over here.
Okay.
I mean, also you guys get to own guns. And that works out.
Don't get me started, Mark.
Literally, actually, we should. Actually,
I'm not. No, we're not going there. All right, all right. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this next one, which
I
is.
literally was about to go political rant. Then
No.
I stopped.
No.
I stopped.
All right.
I held it
Sandman.
in.
Now this one I'm interested in. So this is the first time I'm looking at this trailer too. So.
Oh no, I'm interested in this.
All right, here we go. Sandman on Netflix also.
I am the king of dreams, ruler of the nightmare realm.
What are you doing here, Etty?
He's coming, isn't he?
I've still a man.
Morpheus, the Aneromancer. You know the Sandman.
He's a fairy story, Etty.
He's no fairy story. He's back.
Good to know.
What's he got in his hands? Open your hands now!
The graphics look really good for this
Forgive
one.
me, sire of the palace, the realm. They are not as you left them. With you gone, the realm began to decay and crumble.
The dreams and nightmares no longer seem to recognize their monster. You will remind them.
He's free. He's out of his cage.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
All right. That one looks interesting. Have you ever read
Yeah.
Sandman?
No, never. You've not.
Yeah, it's on our list for the Late to the Party book club.
Well,
Some
yeah,
point.
which we need to discuss. Which we need to discuss on bringing back, like at some point.
Yeah.
Might be in a month or two. Or
Yeah.
something.
Well, don't worry, we haven't forgotten. We'll
no,
get it
no.
back.
Late to the party will return. We
Yeah.
just.
I feel like you just did a Marvel thing there.
Well,
Like at the end of all the Marvel films, Spider-Man will return. Captain America will return.
Yeah,
Late to the party will return.
we had to bring back the main podcast first.
Yeah. Give us time, guys. We're easing our way in.
Late to the party will come back. We've had an idea. We might change it slightly. The format or something. I won't say
the thing about podcasts, they're always evolving, right? So we're evolving.
Yeah. So anyway, Sandman.
Yeah.
That trailer looks really good. Like really, really high quality. So the girl talking, young girl, that was Jenna Coleman, who I was referring to before we start recording. So she's an English actress. She was in Doctor Who. I think like 2 or 3 seasons of Doctor Who, and she played Victoria in the ITV show, which I think you guys have. BBC America, I think. I've not seen Victoria, but yeah. So she's a really good actress. So when I saw that she was playing Constantine's wife, I was like, cool. She's a really good actress. So I think she'll do well.
So is Constantine in here too?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do not believe that.
Do you have a Constantine preference as to who you like as Constantine?
I mean, like Keanu Reeves or the other guy
Matt
from
Ryan.
The show. Oh, that's it, Matt Ryan. I like Matt Ryan. I think he's actually done really well. And do you know what I loved is that the fan support of it was so high. They brought him back into Green Arrow and Legends. Now I'm so far behind on Legends, but him coming into Legends really like piqued my interest in that show a bit more, because I'll be honest, Legends really went down, into garbage world pretty quickly, and but him coming in like really sort of made me more interested in the show, like kind of kept me coming back a little bit. He kind of I think he kind of was a bit toned down from NBC. One thing I was a bit annoyed about was his show was really it was kind of in on a cliffhanger, and they never addressed anything from his show when they brought him back, really.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because NBC was being dicks about it and they just wouldn't give up their content.
Yeah, maybe. Like, so they just took the character.
Yeah.
I assume that the CW could take the character because
it's a DC character. Yeah.
But they just
now when the show first premiered, I believe it was 2014, but whatever year it was, that was the year that I went to New York Comic-Con on behalf of Geeks Unleashed, and I got to interview Matt Ryan at a press table. And he is really funny in person, and you could tell like he really enjoyed playing that character, because he like indulged everybody at the table whenever they'd ask any kind of silly question or even like obscure questions. Because I asked him something about, in the comics, Constantine has this band, and so I asked him if that was going to be making an appearance in the TV show, and he went just like on this whole tangent about the band and this, that, and the other. So it was just really fun to see like his enthusiasm for the role.
I'd personally be happy if they brought him in, but they won't bring him in. I can't, if they bring Constantine in to be a brand new actor, they won't do it.
I mean, I think he fit the character because he is, much closer to the original character than Keanu Reeves was, but I freaking love that Keanu Reeves.
Also, like, Matt Ryan shouldn't constantly take Constantine roles. I mean, it's great that he came back for Legends. Don't get me wrong, I think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But if they were to offer it to him for this, I think he should say
it would have to be somebody else. Yeah.
I think he should also go and find some other work, because he'll get a bit stuck. Like, he would be great. He'd be great, and I'm sure, and I know that everybody would bloody love seeing him in it.
Yeah, but don't fall into that CW trap where you end up playing the same character, Sam and Dean, for 20 some odd years. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they will live handsomely for the rest of their lives. So anyway, that's kind of our news covered off there. A silly question, but if you had to pick one, Resident Evil or Sandman, which one would you watch?
Sandman.
Yeah, me too. Sandman's 11 episodes, slightly longer.
All right.
So, one thing I didn't realize was Neil Gaiman obviously is the creator of Sandman and all that. BH doesn't own the rights, which I didn't realize. It belongs to DC.
Yeah, but he still had to give his
they had
okay.
DC was actually really nice with him about it.
Yeah, because this is the first time that he actually gave his okay on an adaptation. He's turned down every other adaptation that was brought before him.
So DC could have just said no like years ago and just done an adaptation, but they have had Neil Gaiman, like a really strong relationship with Neil Gaiman, where they've allowed him to give the thumbs up on an adaptation of his content. But they could have just said no, we're doing it. Like, but actually, I thought, they could have. But I thought it was good that they haven't done that. That they worked with him. So
well, I think like it. I guess because it's such an iconic book, right? Like you don't want to mess this up. I mean, that would have been like Warner Brothers taking Harry Potter and being like, we don't give a shit what J.K. Rowling says. Like we're gonna do what we want to do, and they did not do that. So that's why I am intrigued, because Gaiman himself has said that this was the first time he actually looked at the treatment for an adaptation and thought, yes, this gets it. So I'll give Sandman a try in August.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. So anyway, there's not too much of a gap between our last recording and this one. Have you watched or read anything recently?
I do have a Sunday night series that I watch. It is a Thai BL series called Kin Porsche. It is ridiculous, over the top fun, and I get such a kick out of it. And it's like such fangirly content that I usually end up popping on Twitter, and like I'm part of this group chat and all of us just like geek out about what happened in the episode. But it's basically like about these Thai gangsters that just kind of run amok in Bangkok, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
I have watched a movie since then, since like, tonight actually, because I'm going to go on Rocket Robbie movie review show, which he has every Monday, which is 2 a.m. for me on the 7th of June, and it's 8
Hope you got some caffeine, man. They're gonna keep you up.
He's actually already said he's going to do a short show. I assume he's been kind because I'm coming on. He's like, he's not going to do. You know how he does the review and then he does like the back chat afterwards. He's not doing that this episode, which was a shame because I threatened to bring my Hoover out and show it to him.
Oh my god! Okay, for those of you that have no idea, obviously you don't have any idea. So me and Mark and Robbie did an episode of Geeks Unleashed a while ago, and for whatever reason there was a vacuum cleaner in the background behind Mark, and it looked like a pink elephant, and I was like, what is that behind you? And he was like, oh, it's a Hoover. And I was like, it's a vacuum cleaner, but it has a name. It's called the Henry, and it has a face painted on it, and they come in all these different colors. And I'm like, Mark, what is the deal with you Brits? Like, why is that a thing? Like, why does your vacuum cleaner need to have faces painted on it, and why does it have human names? I'm very confused. I don't understand. And so now, whenever Mark gets a new vacuum cleaner, he texts me and Robbie.
I think I'm regularly. I did get one recently. So they're really good Hoovers. The last one lasted like 12. We had it like 12 years. Like the Henry lasted like 12. Actually, that one, the pink one was a Hetty.
Okay. Excuse me, not a Henry.
Yeah. So I have got a Henry now, and so I've got a green Henry. It's called a Henry Pet. Like it's meant to be really good for picking up pet hairs.
All right, for Cooper.
So yeah, for Cooper. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize this was only a British thing. It might be other countries too, but there is a brand of Hoover called a Henry.
We do not have that here.
They are well loved. We have other Hoovers too that do not have faces, just so you know.
No, well, I didn't know that. I assume that the only one you have is the thing that you showed me.
The only one that British people have is the Henry, right?
Oh my god, okay, you're gonna have to post that on Instagram so people can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay, sure. Basically, anyway, I was just joking. So there's no back chat. Anyway, to come back to Gross Point Blank. Right, okay, so I watched Gross Point Blank came out in 1997, which is the year I left senior school. I was age 16. It seems familiar. Like I've got this feeling I might have watched it, but I don't, like there was parts of it that seemed familiar as I was going. I don't really want to go into it too much because I'm going to go on Robbie's channel and you can go and watch my full thoughts on it. because by the time this episode comes out, I would have done the review. Overall, I did not enjoy this movie. It was okay.
That is a movie for John Cusack fans.
Like, I feel like it probably had a lot of nostalgia attached to it for people that loved the movie in 1997 and 98, 99, 2000, around that time. It's very 90s. Now, there's a little bit now, obviously, as a man of the 90s, who, I was
a man of the 90s. You say that like you're a man about town.
Like, no. I feel like I was born in the 80s, but I kind of sort of started to grow up in the 90s and early 2000s. That's kind of what obviously started to shape me. I'm still growing up now. I'm still a little boy. But anyway, like one of the things I quite liked as I was watching it, every now and again I'd shout something out. Like when they went to Minnie Driver's radio station, she had all tapes everywhere and playing on record players. I thought that was cool. In the supermarket, they had an arcade machine with Doom 2, which I thought was pretty cool. The soundtrack's pretty good. They have Live and Let Die of Guns N' Roses. So there's a lot of little callbacks for me, like from that era. And I was like, so that was quite cool to me, as that was kind of my growing up time.
Yeah. But was that like the only relatable bit to you? Was all the background stuff?
So like, it's obviously like a hitman comedy.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was funny.
Yeah, it's a very specific type of humor.
Like I don't know, I just found I was just more bored. And I don't know, I just don't think Minnie Driver and John Cusack are particularly strong actors either. Like I'm pretty sure there was a John Cusack film I saw years ago at a motel.
At a motel?
Yeah, like I want to say it was at a motel, and I wish I could remember the film. Oh, it's annoying.
My favorite film that he's in is Con Air.
Oh well, yeah, like Con Air, but that's not because of him. That's not because of him. Like.
I mean, he plays a big part though.
Yeah. Okay. I just looked it up. So there's a film called Identity of John Cusack.
Oh my God, Identity is so good.
With Ray Liotta.
By the way, Ray Liotta died a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, like Rebecca De Mornay's in it.
Scott Conn.
Alfred Molina's in it.
There's a lot of people in Identity.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. So what was cool was, if you've not watched Identity, you should go watch it. Came out 2003, and there's a huge twist.
Yes.
Like, if you've not seen it, it's a really clever twist actually. Like, not often can you pull off a twist like this? So I thought that was cool. So that was a good John Cusack film.
Yeah.
And actually, so he was like the lead in that. That's probably the most standout. That and Con Air, like good films.
Well, I mean, if you were a child of the 80s, Say Anything is probably his biggest claim to fame.
I've never seen it.
See, you should be sure to mention that to Robbie.
What, so he can bring me back and make me watch more foreign films. Like, so I was looking up my lineup with Robbie. I'm going back in July to do all the Lethal Weapons, and then back in August to do all the Teenage Mutant Turtles. So,
well, aren't you fancy?
Oh well, not really. You can come too. Anyway, so I think we'll leave it there for what we've been watching and reading, and I haven't had time to read anything since we last spoke. So we should jump into, as you always say, the meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban from 2004. This is the third.
They skipped a year.
Yeah, because they filmed the first two back to back, and this one there was a break. Probably because they had to go and get a whole new director. So for the first time, we are introduced to the directing style of Alfonso Cuarón for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Same screenplay writer, Steve Kloves, and obviously it is based on the book of the same title by J.K. Rowling.
So I'll do the first 2.5 lines, and you can do the rest. Anyway, so Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter, Rupert Grint is Ron Weasley, Emma Watson is Hermione Granger, Michael Gambon obviously makes his first appearance as Albus Dumbledore, Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall, Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid, Tom Felton as Draco Malfoy, Alan Rickman is I'll carry on. I'll just carry on. Alan Rickman as Professor Snape. I don't know how you say this name.
David Thewlis.
Yeah, as Professor Lupin, who is brand new. Timothy Sapple as
Scabbers.
Scabbers / Peter Pettigrew. Emma Thompson is playing the really crazy Professor
Trelawney.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on,
there you
man. Come on, man.
Fine.
You were supposed to do really well with the British names.
Sorry. I have not heard of anyone with that name before. So anyway, I'll say the budget 130 million US dollars. And
which
what did they
is the
make?
most expensive one so far. This one, however, is the lowest earning one of the first three. It only made $797 million. Only.
I mean, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Warner Brothers were disappointed, but it's still a good turnaround.
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested as our series continues to see how the rest of the films stack up. Like, do we ever get back above $1 billion like the first film? You'll have to stick around and find out.
I'm sure they still continue to make money though.
Of course.
They don't just make money through the actual movies.
Well, yeah, it's the merchandise, and they have theme parks.
Merchandise, the theme parks. They've got the studios up the road from me. Which me and my wife would say we've got to. We've been saying it for like the last 5 years.
Okay, yeah, you got to, but you can't book after Thanksgiving. You have to book like now.
I know, that's what we've been saying. Because every year we get to like Christmas time, we're like, oh, we've got to go because I really want to go Christmas, but like December gets so booked up. So I think we're going to try and book it up. Like, what would be awesome is to go like Christmas Eve and go to the Harry Potter Studios. So,
that'll be so fun
because they basically put Christmas tree up and decorations and stuff like that. So I really want to go to the Harry Potter Studios. I've been to Harry Potter at Universal Studios, but I don't think I feel like I missed a lot. So I went on the train and I did explore around there a little bit. But I was quite knackered at that point. And it was a really, really hot day. And we went on some rides, some roller coaster, which really knocked me out. Like, I'm not very good at roller coasters.
Roller coasters.
No, I'll go on them. But they afterward, I felt like really sick afterwards. So it kind of knocked me out. But anyway, right, yeah.
All right, give us a 2-sentence summary.
Summary of the movie. It's the usual nonsense. Like, they start at the Dudleys and the Dursleys. Sorry, I always say the Dudleys. The Dursleys, they go off to, they eventually make it to school, basically. And there's the mystery of what's going on. I would say, for me, there wasn't like one overall. There wasn't a big villain to me, this movie. It was kind of more the mystery, and this was definitely a setup movie. But it was but the difference between this movie and the last movie, I think it was a much stronger setup movie.
Yes,
and again, there was a lot of. We'll talk about this later. There was a lot of mystery. To be honest, it was a very mysterious movie. I would say there's a lot more plots and mysteries that all kind of pay off at the end.
Yes.
So there's mysteries with Hermione, there's mysteries with Harry, and we get to find out more about his own background with his family, and also around what led up to his parents' death. And there's a big thing around that. And we get to get more into the supernatural elements of Harry Potter. So although we cover magic a lot, we get deeper into the fantasy part of the Harry Potter world. All pays off in quite a big confrontation at the end. And actually we get to see really just how much like Dumbledore is a Harry Potter fan himself. So
he is the biggest Harry Potter fanboy.
And it sort of all leads into big cliffhanger, not cliffhanger, big sort of confrontation at the end. And we'll sort of dive into. I'm trying not to give stuff away as I'm going here. And then it ends with actually quite a nice little moment with Harry jumping on a broom, and it always ends with a nice little bow on it until we get to the last few movies. So that's kind of it, really. I feel like to add any more into that summary, I'd just be talking about the movie.
We'll get there. So all right, a little bit of trivia for Harry Potter 3. So a solemn note, previous Albus Dumbledore, Richard Harris, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is cancer, when they finished filming the second movie. However, he was set on continuing to play Albus Dumbledore, and he begged not to recast the role. This is him. He was begging them not to recast the role while he was in the hospital for cancer treatments. And obviously he did not make it. He did pass right after they began filming this movie. And then of course the role had to be recast. Originally, they approached Ian McKellen. However, Ian McKellen was busy being Gandalf, and he was like, nah, I can't be two people. Like, it's already hard enough for me to be like this iconic wizard. Like, I can't go and be another wizard in another world. Also, apparently, Richard Harris and Ian McKellen had a beef because Richard Harris said that Ian McKellen was a dreadful actor. And so Ian McKellen was like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, I'm not gonna take this role. And that is how we eventually wound up with Michael Gambon playing Albus Dumbledore, who, by the way, I thought was an excellent replacement. And I also loved that. Now, it doesn't always work, but like, I love how they replaced Dumbledore and never, ever, ever mentioned it, talked about it, touched on it. Like, it was not a thing. It was like, they just slid him into that role, and he played it so well, though. I think if it hadn't been him carrying the role the way that he did, it would not have worked if someone else had just been like phoning it in. So I'm really, really glad, because I think that he is an excellent Albus Dumbledore, and actually I think he might be my favorite Dumbledore.
I know, I said the same thing. Like, I prefer him.
Yeah, I think it's just because he's not as old. Like, they age him up obviously to play Dumbledore, but because he wasn't as old as Richard Harris, I think he just had a lot more energy. Like,
he had more energy
in the role of Dumbledore. Yeah,
he had a lot more presence, I think.
Yeah,
like,
I
definitely,
because he actually had like the booming voice, and you could see like if he got angry, or I mean, he just had a little bit more personality than Richard Harris did. But again, age and all of those things. So another thing, this one cracks me up. So this was like a big thing in the books. The kids wear all of their magical garb like all the time when they are in school and when they are doing school events. They don't wear street clothes. So one of the things that the director Alfonso Cuarón wanted to change, like when he first took on this role as director, he was like, I want these kids to be able to show their personalities. So that is why we have so much of them outside of their robes. And even when they are in their robes, like, they're not always neat and tidy. Like, kids are walking around with no ties or with their shirts untucked. But it was his influence, the director's influence, because again, he wanted these kids to look like individuals as they were filming versus everybody looking like a cookie cutter student. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to influence your film. Yeah,
I did notice that. Like,
it's a big change from the book.
Hermione with the hoodie, and I think Harry Potter had like a zip up. Didn't have a hood, but had a zip up jacket thing. And that's actually sort of jumped out to me as I was watching it. Just thought it seems like, I thought it was nice. It was more casual, especially as they're growing up.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for those kinds of things, but yeah, it was a really, really big deviation from the books, because like I said, in the books, they are always in their garbs and robes when they're in Hogwarts. And so I thought this was an interesting bit with, I mean, Hagrid, he's, the animal keeper. And like, there's a scene where right when they're over by Hagrid's hut, like all of these bats come out of nowhere. They actually use real bats to film those sequences. Apparently the bats peed all the time. So it was always like trouble when they were filming with the bats, because you were guaranteed to get peed on by a bat when they were filming these scenes. Apparently they were also hard to train, but these bats loved bananas. So that is how the animal wranglers on set kept the bats in check, was bananas. But it must have sucked to like have a 12-hour filming sequence and be consistently peed on by bats.
Sorry.
And then another thing, which again, this is like inputting information that they did, that was in the books, but is not actually like said out loud in the film. But when Harry gets to the Leaky Cauldron he sees a picture of Ron and the Weasleys in Egypt. And the backstory behind that newspaper piece is that is the reason why Sirius Black escaped from Azkaban, because he saw that same newspaper and he recognized Peter Pettigrew in the Weasley family portrait. And so then he realized that Peter Pettigrew was still alive, and that is why he escaped and went to Hogwarts, because he was looking for that rat the whole time so that he could kill him, which I thought was super interesting. And it's like, that would have been a really interesting, like, I wish they could have worked that into the film somehow, because like if you have not read the book, that you would never have known that that was the connection to why Sirius went to Hogwarts.
I thought it was a good twist about the rat. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so yeah, just summarize your thoughts on the third movie, Jasmine.
It's my favorite, honestly. It is where shit gets real. Like, it is much darker than the first two, and it really kind of sets the tone for the rest of the series going forward. Everybody has finally, it's like everybody's kind of come into their own personality. Like, all of their personalities have been solidified at this point, all of the kids, and it's really interesting to see the dynamics play out. I love that it's a bit darker. I really liked Professor Lupin. He was probably one of my favorite new characters that was introduced. Just because he talked to the kids not in a condescending manner. Like, he actually just like had conversations with these kids. And probably one of my favorite scenes with Lupin is when he is introducing them to the Boggart, and Neville is first up. Neville is like terrified of Professor Snape, but he's also terrified of his grandmother. And so Lupin just kind of like whispers in Neville's ear. He's like, all right, so I want you to imagine Professor Snape wearing your grandmother's clothes. But it's just like that whole, like, the way that he's so gentle with these kids, and the way that he, like, I don't know, I thought he was really good. So he was a really, really good addition to me. And I'm really glad we get to see a little bit more of him further along in the series.
Yeah. I think for me, the third film was a huge jump just in terms of just so much, like just the tone, just the characters, the writing, the style of it. It was so much more interesting. I just love the world building a lot more. I know it does come off the back of obviously world building that's already been done, but I just love so much about it, and just the eeriness, the mystery, just I don't know, just so much about it I really loved. I love the fact that we get more on Harry and his family and his backstory. You know, I know, you know, Sirius Black, you know, being Harry's godfather, and it really showed to me, actually, one of the things I think if there was a point to this movie, it was just Harry and family, like, because you know there was the scene where they all go into the village, and Harry can't go because he hasn't got a letter, because obviously he's got no family. I mean, he has got family, but his family don't care about it. Yeah. And actually, like, again, when he meets up with Sirius, he's like, oh, you know, he's like desperate to go home with Sirius. He's like, can I stay with you now? But Sirius, obviously, we know that's never going to happen. Sirius, obviously, towards the end of the film, says, no, Harry, you know, I can't take you. But realistically, Sirius would have taken him. But obviously, that would have been.
But he's a fugitive, so.
Well, no. You know, they would have, but I know, but they would have probably found a way of, realistically, somebody would have found a way for Harry to not go back to those horrible Dursleys. You know? Yeah. But obviously, that's the point, is that he has to go to the Dursleys because they're like one of his foil. You know, that's Harry's foil. Like, well, his foil is obviously Voldemort, but his day-to-day foil is the Dursleys. Yeah. And but it's just how much Harry just craves family, and to the point where what happens is really Harry just starts to build his own through Hermione and
found families. I love the concept of found families.
Like, yeah, and that's kind of basically he starts to build his own family, and he kind of gets attached to obviously Ron and Ron's family, and obviously as the books go on, books and films go on, obviously with Ginny and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, it's very much for me, it was just about Harry, just how desperate, like understandably desperate that he wants a family. So but yeah, no, I really love this. I think it was much more of an improvement on both the first two movies. The style I was really in love with. So, and I loved that end scene, like where Lupin and Snape and obviously the reveal about the rat. I thought that was a really cool twist. And you wouldn't even think that the rat that had been mentioned so many times throughout the movie actually turns out to be
because this is the first movie where we learn about what an animagus is. I mean, well, that's not true because McGonagall is an animagus. But it's other than McGonagall, this is like the first time we actually see that. And I thought it was interesting. They don't really explain it in this movie. They explain it in the book, but like Lupin, Sirius, James Potter, and then Peter Pettigrew were all best friends. But Lupin's always been a werewolf. And so Sirius, James, and Peter learned how to be animagus so that they could make Lupin feel like he wasn't so alone. And I thought that was a really cool way to show that they used to be like really tight best friends, which is what makes it so much more tragic that Pettigrew, turned and like got James killed by Voldemort.
So do you have a favorite character?
Yes, in this film my favorite character is Hermione. I love it. I love her. Like she's got a little attitude in this one, and I really liked it. She's back to being like the know-it-all, but she has her secret way of getting to all of these different classes. But one of the things I really liked with what they did with Hermione in this one is we finally found something that she's not good at, and she's not good at divination at all. Like her and Professor Trelawney don't get along. She doesn't understand the concepts of divination because it's not really backed by any kind of like science that you can prove what you're learning. And so I think it's really interesting that Hermione has such a hard time with it. But one of my favorite Hermione scenes is when Trelawney is just like, my dear, ever since you walked into my classroom, like I knew you didn't have the gift of sight. And Hermione gets pissed off and like throws her little crystal ball all the way across the room and like storms out. And I was like, yep, this is some teenage hormones right there. But I love Hermione and I love her arc in this film.
No, I think, I loved all of Hermione in this movie. And I love the fact that actually sort of the second half of the movie is actually Harry and Hermione rather than Harry and, like the last film I just felt was like 80-90% Harry, Ron. And whilst Ron had a good chunk of this movie, I love the fact that Ron actually can't see sort of the second half on it. It's Hermione and Harry, and Hermione's really instrumental to actually getting the whole film sort of tied up. And really, she led the way. She led the way for Harry a lot of this movie. Like, I think, and even encouraging Harry at the end to stand up and sort of save himself and save Sirius. And
but she was like so gentle though. Like she didn't like scream at him or yell at him or anything. She was just like, no one else is coming. I mean, you're gonna have to figure this out, Harry, because no one else is coming.
But no, I thought she was really good. I really liked, and I loved what I liked was the mystery. Again, it's like these films juggle multiple plots really well, and the little plot of her constantly showing up in lessons. Whilst you don't think it's necessarily important in the beginning, it's it's kind of like an annoying thing that happens. You clearly think that that you'll find this out later what this is about, but actually you don't realize it's actually really big. It's a really big thing. It's like, and it's really instrumental to actually the movie being sort of resolved. That she actually's got some sort of time travel magic necklace.
It's a time turner.
Time turner. I forgot the name. So anyway,
come on, get on your magical items, Mark.
I know. For me, I was really close to picking Hermione, but Lupin for me, I liked.
He's my second favorite.
I liked him for many reasons. One, that it was a new teacher that was introduced, who wasn't a waste of space, wasn't a villain. Wasn't anyone that really was an obstacle to the teachers, to the kids, like, and it wasn't somebody who had either a link to Voldemort in a villainy way or just wasn't a selfish person. Actually came there with the idea of helping Harry, and actually had a relationship with Harry's parents, and had his own pain and backstory as well. So he had like an interesting backstory, interesting way he carried himself, and I think Lupin really was great. And so there's an air of mystery around Lupin, but you can see, I think even before the reveal, you can kind of see that Lupin is a genuinely nice guy. But he's sort of firm but fair. I think that's probably about the best way of describing Lupin. It's like he's got this firm but fair sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And like when he tells off Harry about the map, like although he stands up for Harry, the moment like he's doing him on his own, he then tells him off saying you should have handed this in straight away.
Yeah.
So it's like he's happy to train Harry, like, and be his friend, but equally it's like, well, you know, I'm a teacher. Like,
right.
You know, so
you shouldn't have this big of an advantage over everyone else.
Yeah. So no, I liked a lot about Lupin. I think it was cool, and
Yeah.
I loved the transformation of him into a werewolf, which I loved how they built that up. It was quite obvious when Sirius took over the class. They suddenly
Severus.
Sirius, and you know, I like the names. And so when he took over the class, and immediately changed the lesson plan to werewolves.
Page 394.
And like Hermione's like, oh, we're on page 20, you know, and he's like, no, I'm going to teach this. And he clearly was teaching it deliberately because he wanted them to know what the teacher was, or more likely, so the audience would know. And, but no, I thought that was just really cool. Yeah, anyway, I love Lupin. So, right, nicely put a minute ago, favorite magical items of this movie. Did you have one?
Yes, I did, which I accidentally revealed in our previous episode because I got my movies mixed up. But my favorite magical item in this film is definitely Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs Marauders map. It is so cool.
I was going to go with the bus. Like,
oh, the night bus. You know, they actually built a real bus that could drive around London for that scene.
I did not know that, but one of the things I did think when I watched it was how could anyone sleep on any of those beds in the background?
I know, right? Not with Ernie driving.
No, I'm going to go with the time turner. That was my favorite. Let's be honest.
Time turner was a good one.
If you had a time turner, oh my god, the amount of times you can read. If you could redo the day, like if you could redo any of the day, there's so much stuff you'd redo.
The time turner, or to be in two places at once. Yes. I honestly, though, I was such a nerd when I was in school. I probably would have done exactly what Hermione had done, and I would have used it to take more classes.
I would get the lottery numbers. Wouldn't have to do classes. So, but no, the time turner would come in handy for many occasions. So
I think everybody on the planet would take the time turner. Oh, like if that could be real, they'd take that over anything else from these films. Yeah.
So jumping into the structure of the movie, I always talk about this. Like for me, the structure, I love the structure of this film, of all these films, really. I love the fact that we've got this whole, it's not set over like a day or 2 days or a week. You know, I love the fact that it's a school year, and I love the fact that it's very formula driven. I know that, like, I love that. And actually,
it's formula driven, but it's different every single time.
I know that. Like, it's interesting enough that you don't mind the formula. So it's not like watching CSI or something. You know, I love, you know, it's the same that it always begins with Harry and the Dursleys, etc. And then we've got the preschool trip thing to the Weasleys or Diagon Alley, or maybe they go to some big field festival that's in one of the films, or, you know, with this we have the night bus, or like, you know, like there's always something pre that. Then we've got the train, and then we've got obviously the school year, and then the school year is broken up, and you get to see that throughout. And again, we've got we've got winter and stuff like that. So I always love the structure of this, and I love the fact that in this movie as well that they got to leave the school and go to the local town. Which I thought that was pretty cool as well. But I think the way they handle multiple plot lines and then kind of ticking them off, like, so that it's satisfying for the audience at the end, is really good. Like I love how they slowly sort of tease things, whatever, and then tie up most of it at the end of this film. But also every film / book is kind of used to set up the next one.
Of course.
But they don't do it in, I've talked about this before, we've both wrote about this, like, you know, Tom Cruise's Mummy film. They're not done in a ridiculous sense. They're done in a way in which they're trying to tell an overall complete story and enough for you to feel satisfied that it's ended.
Right.
But they also set up they sort of set it up a little bit for further world building. But
they set it up for you to get the payoff on purpose. Like, like there's the scene on the bridge between Harry and Lupin, where Lupin is telling Harry about his parents. And that conversation was not in the books. So they put that in the film, and it alludes pretty much to almost to Lily and Snape's relationship, which we get into, I think, in the not until the seventh film.
Okay, did you have any favorite scenes at all?
Favorite scenes. I mean, this one behind me is one of my favorites. It's
I literally was about to say I loved when Hermione walked up to what's his face,
Draco.
Draco, and that just how
foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach.
And she punched him. I just thought that she just punched him.
That was originally written to be a slap, and then they changed it to a punch.
I think she did really well. That was actually one of my favorite scenes. She really stood up to him.
Yeah.
So
although I think one of my favorite sequence is when we finally when they go back in time and then we redo the day, but with them as on the back end, like when they say Buckbeak and all that stuff. Like I really like that entire sequence, but them having gone back in time, so following just Hermione and Harry versus when they did it the first time with Ron there too.
Yeah, me too. I actually liked the time travel reveal. I thought that was pretty cool when Dumbledore leaves and then they did a time turner. And I love it as they walk back in and then Dumbledore's like, they say to Dumbledore, what's happened? And he's like, what's happened? So he walks away. Yeah. Like, basically, he's like, I don't want to know. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like the green light.
Plausible deniability. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, giving them the green light to go do it, but I don't want to know.
3 turns should do it.
Yeah. So, anyway. What would you rate this movie out of 10?
Oh man, it's my favorite. So like it's hard to not be completely biased, but like I really want to give this one like an 8.5.
I would probably go around 8.5. Like the last 2 I've given a 6. Yeah. And I would say 8.5 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I love it. I really appreciated the change in tone. It's really apparent that they have been aged up a bit. I mean they're still progressing through school, but like they feel a bit older. Everybody kind of has like come into like their teenage bodies, so there's no more like little children anymore. So I think like everything is finally clicking on all cylinders. Like it feels like this is the film where the entire series hits its stride.
Yeah, I would go 8.5. I think it's a really good step up from the last 2. I think that other than Harry's rubbish crying scene, a lot of the acting is far superior to the previous 2 movies from the children.
Do you mean when he is crying at Hogsmeade Village and he's like, he was their friend?
Well, yeah, he didn't have a single tear on his face. I was like, what is going on? That Daniel Radcliffe obviously does improve his acting skills as he gets older, but in this movie, not so much. So, anyway, right, okay, yeah. So we'll just sort of wrap this episode up, and so our next episode we're going to continue our run towards a 100th episode.
We're going to try a wizard tournament. Isn't that nice? Yeah, that's nice.
We're gonna review the 4th Harry Potter movie. So just stick with us, and you can follow us on all the social medias. We're Geeks and Nation everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere. So please leave us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
And have a good week.
Good journey.
Good journey indeed.